This is section 3 of chapter 12 on correlational research strategies. And in this lecture, we will consider the various applications of the correlational strategy in research. So one key use of correlational research is to identify relationships between variables that can be used for the purposes of prediction. So when you have two variables and they are found to be consistently related, knowledge of one can help you predict the value of the other. And this predictive capacity is a powerful tool in various fields. So in correlational studies, variables are often designated as either the predictor or the criterion variable. So predictor variables, this is the variable used to make a prediction. And the criterion variable is the variable being predicted. So let's take an example. So people who go to grad school, in most cases, have to take the GRE exam. And that's going to be a substantial part of your application. So in this case, the GRE scores are being used to predict graduate school success because GRE scores and grad school success have been shown to correlate with one another. So in this situation, the GRE score would be the predictor variable, and grad school performance would be the criterion variable. Now, the statistical method for using one variable to predict another is called regression. And we'll talk more about regression in the chapter on statistics. But regression aims to find the equation that best predicts the criterion variable y from the predictor variable x. For example, the book mentions a study that used regression to show that higher positive affect, so lower depression scores, predict problem-solving ability in older adults. And so that's one example of this approach in action. So to summarize, if there's a relationship between two variables, then knowing the value of one allows you to predict the value of the other. And the accuracy of the prediction will be determined by the strength of the relationship. So if it were the case that the relationship between GRE scores and grad school performance was a perfect 1, a correlation of 1, then knowing somebody's GRE score will tell you exactly how well they would do in grad school. Now, in the real world, it's never going to be that strong. But even a moderate correlation will allow you to make predictions above chance. And that can be very useful in many fields, from science to healthcare to education. Now, another application of correlations has to do with a couple of terms that you should be familiar with by now. And those are reliability and validity. So when assessing a measurement procedure in research, there are these two fundamental criteria that are used: reliability and validity. And these criteria are often established through correlational research designs, which help determine the consistency and accuracy of your measurements. So recall, reliability refers to the consistency or stability of a measurement procedure. So one example of this that we discussed is the test-retest reliability. And here you want to evaluate the consistency of a measurement over time. And you do this by administering some test to the same group of individuals at two different time points and then correlating the scores. And a high correlation would indicate high test-retest reliability, meaning that the test produces reliable measures over time, which is what you want. Then there's the concept of validity. And validity assesses the extent to which a measurement actually measures what it claims to be measuring. So a valid measurement accurately reflects the concept or construct that it is intended to measure. And one example that we discussed is something called concurrent validity. And this is used to evaluate the extent to which a new measurement correlates with established measurements of the same construct. And so again, the scores from the new test are compared with scores from established tests using a correlational design. And if you have a high correlation between the new test and established tests of the same construct, then this would validate your measure and increase your confidence that you are really measuring what you think you are measuring. So again, to summarize, this other important application of correlation is to establish both reliability and validity of psychological measures. All right, and finally, another important application of the correlational strategy has to do with evaluating different theories in psychology and other sciences. So correlational research is often used to evaluate theories, especially when those theories generate questions or make predictions about relationships between variables. And one classic example of using correlational research to evaluate a theory is the investigation into the nature versus nurture debate as it relates to various human characteristics. So the question is, to what extent are we shaped by nature, our genetic endowment, versus nurture, how we are raised and where we are raised and the experiences that we have? And this is an old debate in science and philosophy. So for example, people have studied identical twins separated at birth and raised in different environments to try and address this question. So you have identical twins that share the same genetic makeup, but in different environments, they have different environmental influences because they've been raised apart. And this creates a unique situation that allows researchers to disentangle the effects of heredity from the effects of environment on a whole range of factors. So the idea is you can correlate various personality measures and traits and characteristics between twins that have been reared apart. And what has been consistently found is that twins reared apart are still remarkably similar to one another. So groups of twins will show stronger correlations on multiple traits to their other twins compared to biological siblings or adopted siblings, even when those twins have been raised in completely different environments. And this makes a strong argument that genetics plays a significant, but not a definitive, role in how we develop. All right, that concludes this section. And in the next section, we will discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the correlational strategy.